Hello and welcome to the Arbitration Conversation. So in this episode, we have a true leader, somebody who I've admired for a very long time in the arbitration space, someone who has fought for diversity and especially gender diversity and women in arbitration for many years. Truly a pleasure to welcome Mirèze Philippe with me here, and she is with the, I want to make sure I say it correctly, she's the special counsel at the Secretariat of the ICC International Court of Arbitration. She's a French lawyer, and she also holds a postgraduate degree in business law as well. She has been working in the areas of ODR, online dispute resolution, as well as international commercial arbitration for many years. She has won awards for being a champion of diversity, and it's just an honor, truly an honor to have you here, Mirèze. I really, really admire your work, and I am so thankful to have you as a guest.
Amy, I admire your work, as I was telling you earlier, so I'm really honored to be invited. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my experience. I love the idea of the conversations you have put in place, because I think that people may benefit from hearing about the various paths professionals have experienced. There is no one single path that looks like another one, and all paths are very interesting. There are so many amazing people. So thank you for this opportunity, and I think that the conversations hopefully may inspire a lot of people listening to what the different possibilities are in careers. There's no straight line.
I love that. And speaking of inspiration, you're the founder of Arbitral Women, which we know is a very successful arbitration organization. And as the founder, I would love to hear about your journey, what kind of hurdles you faced, how you actually created this very successful organization.
Thanks, Amy, for this question, because it's truly important. My generation actually was a generation of female lawyers who suffered from the difficulty of publishing, speaking, pleading, or cross-examining. Except for a few, women were not nominated to higher positions as arbitrators, as mediators, experts, and never played the role of lead counsel. Women were doing exactly the same work as their male counterparts. And that was really disappointing for us women, because we remained backstage and almost never on stage. So what happened is that, considering that this was extremely disappointing and women were as qualified as their male counterparts, but opportunities were never offered to them. And the problem was also probably a problem of visibility. So what happened next is the following. In 1993, at the International Council for Commercial Arbitration, known as the ICA Congress, my colleague at that time, Louise Barrington, was at that Congress, populated with 250 participants. And out of those 250, only 5 or 6 were women. And so she wondered if there were other practitioners in dispute resolution. She sent out a chain letter. At that time, internet was not active in 1993, at least not in private homes. And we ended up in November 1993 in Paris, 60 female practitioners at a dinner. And we were amazed to discover about each other, because we totally ignored about each other. We had no forum to meet. We had no possibility to learn about each other, considering that memoranda in arbitration were not signed by women. They were signed by lead counsel, and lead counsel would be at hearings. So we didn't know about each other, and only few knew about each other. We needed to stay in touch. And when, excuse me, there's a reminder for our talk. So we needed to stay in touch, and at that time there was nothing. But when the technology was booming in the mid-1990s, and Yahoo Group started blooming everywhere, I seized the opportunity and created a Yahoo Group for arbitral women. And it started growing so exponentially that we decided, Louise Barrington and myself, to found Arbitral Women with a few members at that time. So we started a movement. And I think it's important to mention it because when one starts a movement, first, the person must be ready to be criticized and overcome many obstacles. And that was really a struggle. We were very much criticized, including by our colleagues and by women. So it wasn't only men, it was everyone. So criticisms were very useful opportunities to examine whether what we were doing was right. You must remain always positive and challenge yourself. So actually, the more we were criticized, the more I was convinced that we were doing the right thing. And that being said, it is important to try to remain humble, and I really insist on it because it is very important to avoid arrogance. It serves no purpose. The quality of the work is the best witness for any message one wishes to deliver. We persevered, really persevered, like it was struggles for years, long years, until people started seeing that Arbitral Women was serious and started taking Arbitral Women seriously and started to understand the message Arbitral Women was trying to convey and that the message had a value. So first,
and that's so inspiring. It's such an inspiring story. It really is. You know, I'm imagining as you were criticized, I'm sure, from many angles, but yet forged on. And you're right, the quality of the work shined.
And sometimes in meetings, I would keep my head down to the floor, just listen, you know, and then go back, analyze, and think, well, this is perhaps the way to do it, but never stop. So the first thing was to be ready to be criticized. The second thing, when you start a movement demands more of you than you may have anticipated. And it means that it requires energy, it requires time, it requires dedication, it requires resilience. Most importantly, it requires leadership, and you must stand ready to undertake many initiatives yourself. If you want this movement to be a success, you can't count on people. People may have different objectives, different agendas. When you believe in something and want it to be successful, you must be ready to pull up your sleeves and to really work and work very hard. So I dedicated my nights, my weekends, my holidays, every minute I had to bring it forward. If you believe in a project, I think you're able to make it successful and to dedicate your time. And I think it's really a sacrifice you don't think about. You just do it. And when you do it, and after a long time, you see that it works, then you are very happy and you want it to go even further. So anyway, this is exactly what I did. Spending all the time to bring Arbitral Women forward. And the objective was really to design a space where members can gather, can share ideas, communicate among themselves, promote each other, trade ideas. And that was really the forum for that. So we started meeting, we started organizing events, and I think that events were very important because by inviting women on panels and speaking about arbitration, it was mainly arbitration, but not only, it was also mediation and later expertise. We showed basically that women are competent, that women exist, that women are there, they are available, and that you can call on women to speak, to arbitrate, to mediate. So it was very important first to give a forum to women. And just an anecdote, a very funny one. 5 years ago, we were on holidays, and a man wrote to Arbitral Women to say, I would like to become a member. And so we responded to say, Arbitral Women is a forum for women, but men are welcome because all our events are open to men and nothing is closed. So you're welcome to join. And so he considered that that was discriminating against men. So we found it very funny. And it was almost a victory to hear that because that meant that the movement was successful. And so we answered to that person telling him, we really welcome him to join our events. But the reason for which we founded Arbitral Women is because Arbitral Women has no clubs, has no forum, and we are never invited to clubs. Men clubs are for men, and it is impossible to join a men club. So we needed that forum, and we would be happy to welcome him if men clubs were opened also to women. So that was the end of the story. Anyway,
That's funny.
but I considered that it was a victory because he considered that forum was successful and he needed to join that forum.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
So how did we succeed also? As you mentioned earlier, before becoming a lawyer, I was in business. And I realized only much later how much my business background helped me really in every action I undertook for Arbitral Women, because everything I had in mind, everything we did, I thought needed to be publicized. And the way we did it is really speaking regularly about the movement, about the initiatives, about achievements, first through our website, then through newsletters, news alerts. I needed to speak about everything because that was the way not only to promote Arbitral Women, but to promote the members, to promote the female speakers, to promote the subjects that female speakers were speaking about. It was not diversity necessarily. It was truly matters about arbitration, about proceedings, about substantive law. So it wasn't just women speaking about diversity. No, it was women speaking about professional issues and showing the talents of women. So that was very important. We made sure that everything we did was promoted through the website, newsletter, news, speak about it. Everything I heard, for instance, a member telling me that she published a book, how can I promote that? And, you know, ideas came like this. We published a book about women pioneers in dispute resolution. And every time we offered it or distributed it, people were saying, we didn't know that there were so many women in arbitration. So you see, and in dispute resolution in general. So it was important to give visibility to the women. And most importantly, I think that it is very important to finish projects and to deliver. Because any person has many ideas. Any person can speak about ideas. But if you don't give birth, if you don't make those ideas live, if you don't deliver, if you don't walk the talk, it serves no purpose. Many people have ideas, but you need to take the ideas forward and to deliver. So the difficulty also in the organization was that members had many ideas, which is great. But every time I was saying, we must first deliver the 5 projects we have on the table, and then we can take number 6, 7, 8, and so on. And it is something we try to do. Every time we have a project, we speak about it, we publish it. We publish regularly about where we stand and about the achievements. Because if people don't see that it is achievable, people will not believe in what we undertake first, and people will not trust that things may change. Because if, for instance, the success of Arbitral Women is also to have removed taboos, speaking about diversity, speaking about gender diversity, speaking about raising issues about unconscious bias. The more we spoke about it, the more it became normal to speak about it. And women didn't feel any longer isolated, like I'm a woman, I cannot go to speak to my employer and say, I achieved this and that this year, and I think I'm entitled to have a raise in my salary or to be promoted and so on. The more women speak, the more they know that this is possible, that it can be successful, the less they will feel isolated and they will dare. And also, it's very important. Sorry, Amy, you wanted to say something?
Oh, I was going to say, absolutely. I love the message. And the other point I is so important. I say this to my students all the time, and I'm hearing you in this idea about having so much passion that it's fun to get it done, to work on Saturdays, to roll up your sleeves and really work hard. But it actually becomes enjoyable when someone has passion. Yeah. And you're someone who clearly you have passion, and I love seeing that.
I think that if you don't have passion, you will not devote all your time to a project. It's impossible because it really is a sacrifice. It's a sacerdoce, we say in French. Anyway, so yeah, it is something very important. So we kept bringing arbitral women forward and raising our voice, but not in a strident manner. And this is important. Aggressivity is certainly the last thing to be done, and the message cannot be delivered if a person is aggressive. We raised our voice basically by getting simply on with the many initiatives and putting in place several activities which gave visibility to women. We promoted women, as I said, everywhere in books, on websites, in news, and so on. Something else we did also, which was very helpful and that now everybody does. Lorraine Brennan, whom you may know, is an arbitrator and mediator with JAMS, and she was a former arbitral woman president. She had a brilliant idea. She took an initiative that now everyone applies. What she did is basically when she saw panels with 100% male speakers line up, she would call the organizer and say, we will not promote your event and we will not attend your event unless you invite female speakers on the panel. And so we started doing that every time we saw that there were 100% lineup of male speakers without women. And that started changing. But the problem is that, and it's hard today to pretend that there were no women available or no women speaker in any field. I think that people who say that don't make the effort to look, because there are so many websites today like Arbitral Women who promote women with a multi-search criteria tool that allows you, for instance, to cross the field and say, I need a speaker who speaks Japanese, who is experienced in satellite procurement, who has experience in arbitration and so on. So there is that tool that allows people to find speakers, arbitrators, experts, ombudswomen, adjudicators, and it is very rewarding to hear very regularly on many listservs and in many events that people use our website really as the hub to go to find female practitioners. So this is truly satisfactory because you know that you have moved the needle. You understand that the needle is moving, although there remains a lot to be done. So we have a lot of programs. Sorry, Amy, go ahead.
No, there's so much. Yeah, I mean, where do you see, I guess, with all these programs and the successes, I mean, is there a vision for the future? I mean, what do you see as kind of the next horizon?
I think, Amy, that we have come, first we started in 1993 and we only started becoming really recognized by our peers around 2010. So it took a long time, and it's only 10 years, since 10 years that we are really recognized and called upon. We are a bit victims of our success because we are constantly invited by organizations to organize or co-organize events, or for many other initiatives, also for books, publications, and so on. But what I can tell you is that in my 35 years of practice in arbitration, I have seen a tremendous change. Like in the past, when I started in arbitration, I could count women on the fingers of one hand. Today, there are thousands of women practitioners in dispute resolution around the world and who have a lot of talents. Now, if we look at statistics, when I started collecting data in 2010, so first, we never did that in the past. Nobody did it because the numbers were very bad and because no one found that that was an issue. It was a non-issue. That's the problem. It was a non-issue. Then when we started collecting numbers, I wasn't allowed first to publish them. Then when I was allowed to start publishing them, it was only a few numbers, and people thought that there was a problem. There were only 7% of women arbitrators nominated back in 2010, 10 years ago. So when starting publishing data, people realized basically that there was a problem. And then came the Equal Representation in Arbitration Pledge, which is very successful. It started in 2016. And I think that it was really a very good boost for arbitral women and for the numbers of women. We can speak about it if we have time, but it was very helpful because from that moment on, dispute resolution organizations started publishing statistics. So that is where awareness was raised and numbers were really revealing the reality. So in 2010, there was 7% of women arbitrators, mainly at ICC, but I think that other organizations were a little bit similar to this number. And now in 2019, last year, we reached 21%. So that is a success, but we're in 2020. And in 2020, we're only around 20%, perhaps a little bit more, but the average is 20%. So we still have a long way to go, except that today, with all the organizations militating in favor of nominating more women and giving a forum for women, I think that we can go quicker. We have just published, as you know, a month ago, ICA just published the ICA Diversity report, which is an excellent tool because it speaks about everything. It provides statistics from various dispute resolution organizations. We also spoke about unconscious bias, about the many initiatives from many organizations. But most importantly, we gave recommendations and tips. And that's very important because people may wonder, how can I do? Well, that is what you can do. And there's a checklist. I mention it because it's very important. There are 2 checklists at the end of the report that gives a list of recommendations that anyone can apply of how to change and how to contribute to change. And I think it will be very useful because it's handy. You're not going to read probably a report of 200 pages, but you can take those checklists of 5 pages, look them through and say, okay, this is something I can do concretely. So I think that things will go better with time. I hope that it's not going to take another 50 years to get to a certain equality in numbers. I think that there are many initiatives today that show us positive attitudes from corporate, from organizations, from law firms, and all of us together can contribute to that with men, women, organization, and everyone. And men are very important. I open another bracket. Every time we organize a panel, I always insist that we have male on the panel because obviously we want equality and not a 100% lineup female or 100% lineup male. Both are important. So we have to share the forum.
You know, and the thing about Arbitral Women, I mean, such a success and so exciting with the changes and your philosophy and your passion. Given that, I also know that you're an expert in online dispute resolution. And I'm curious to know your journey of what brought you into online dispute resolution.
A coincidence like anything in life. So basically what happened, first I was introduced, I think, to technology by, at that time, my colleague, Benjamin Davis in 1995. And later in 2000, the president of the court, Robert Briner, called me in his office and said, we need you to build a platform for arbitration. And I turned it down and I said, President, I'm a lawyer. I'm not an engineer. I'm sorry. This is not for me. And it kept going on for a few days. And then he insisted, looked at me over his glasses and said, Madame, you have the expertise in arbitration. We need you, you know, ICC arbitration. You must build that platform. So I had to accept. And I am so grateful to him for having insisted. I discovered a whole world of legal issues, technical issues. It was a lot of challenges. It was a wonderful forum to discover. So it was extremely difficult because for me, it was discovering a new world and nobody would understand. And I was even criticized by my colleagues like, she's no longer doing legal, she's no longer working on legal matters, which was wrong because actually everything about technology and about ODR is legal. So it was absolutely fascinating to discover this field. And I built, along with a team of computer engineers, the platform, the Netcase platform for ICC. It was a dedicated platform that we built from scratch, giving access to arbitrators and parties to their cases 24/7. So they had access to everything, to their entire bundle, to their entire case without having to go to papers. Everything was there. The memoranda that they uploaded on the website, a notebook, the addresses of everyone, the contact of everyone, the financial aspect, the payments, anything that happened in the case was on that dedicated intranet for each of the cases. And what was interesting also is that they had no longer to communicate through emails, including to chat. So what I had done is creating basically several forums for several groups of people, one for everyone, the arbitral tribunal, the parties, and the institution, another one only for the arbitrators, a third one only between the counsel, and so on. So there was no way of making mistakes. Like if you send by mistake your draft award to the parties, you really made a mistake. Like you had the right forum to avoid any mistake. Everything was there, and it was so successful that until today, people ask for using the Netcase platform. We have unfortunately suspended it temporarily to build something more modern, because obviously the platform was built around 2000, and at that time pages were more or less static, whereas today everything is interactive. So,
right.
So the interesting thing about it is that when I started building it, I was contacted by Caller, who is a very reputed international arbitrator, a wonderful woman, very passionate about everything she does. And she had a very interesting idea. She invited lawyers and engineers, gathered them in Geneva. We sat around the table and she said, we need both to speak because we can do things together. We have the procedure, we need technology. What can we do together to offer users the possibility to take their cases online? So that's where we started meeting in 2000 in Geneva. That's where I met Colin. That's where I met Ethan Katz, Colin Rule. Debbie Miller-Slate at that time, she was building for AAA the platform I was building for ICC, and many other people. And that's how the group started. So we started meeting every year to take stock of our research, of what we achieved, and to learn from each other. It's such a fascinating field where we keep learning, and you know what, you're also very much involved in ODR. You have published a lot, and you're also an expert, and you know how fascinating it is, this field,
Well,
because it's still building.
Oh, it's so, I mean, I was saying to you before the taping, and I really do, I feel so blessed to know you and to know all the people that are part of that group. So it's a very innovative and intelligent and supportive group.
Yes, absolutely, Amy, you said the word. It's a very supportive group. There is no competition. Basically, we share a lot of information, and we are not afraid of sharing, because this is how you build the field. Obviously, it's still a nascent field, and we still need to build a lot, but there's unfortunately, it's completely underexplored. There are huge possibilities that people don't believe in. And I think the reason, so let me first speak about the reason for which I believe very much in it. So we've been meeting since 20 years now, every year in a different city and exchanging. And we have the website, thanks to Ethan Katz and Leah Wing, who built that website, the NCTDR, National Center for Technology and Dispute Resolution, that gathered a lot of practitioners in online dispute resolution, and that help us keep each other informed. So the important thing about ODR, and that people completely ignore, is the possibility we can give to access to justice.
Mm-hmm.
We know how millions of people are denied justice because they have no access to justice, either because it's unaffordable for them. They can't take lawyers, they can't pay lawyers, or they have no physical access to courts. They may have disabilities, they may have language barriers, they may have all sorts of barriers, and also they may think the amount of their claim is not important enough to go through through the hassle that may generate. So giving the possibility to people to bring their disputes online will really be the thing that everyone needs to concentrate on nowadays. We know how much denial of justice is so common, and this is unacceptable. It's a human right issue. And also in the human right, we know that the IBA, I think, there was an IBA report a few years ago that spoke about having access to internet is a human right. So human right of accessing justice and human right of accessing internet combined together must enable us to give people the possibility to bring their dispute online. And I think you know, Amy, that all of us are really keen on doing that. Many of us are doing a lot with also with the NSCS, with the National Center for Courts.
State courts, yep.
Yeah, for state courts, with Paul Embley and all our friends. And I think that really what we are doing today is extremely important. But the reason for which people don't believe in it is the very unfortunate pitfalls that we have encountered. The most important and bad of it is the lack of continuity. And why so? Because people who invest in programs, in platforms, basically invest in platforms like building a house. So they think that once they have built the house, it's over, it's delivered, there's nothing else to do. What I say is building a platform is like bringing up a child. You need to buy clothes to a child almost every year. You need to pay education. You need to take along that child through the life that child is building. So giving funds to a platform to be built is not enough. You need to budget to upgrade it constantly, to promote it, to educate, because people don't know how to use it. The more you speak about it, the more you educate, the more you show that it's working, the more people will trust it, and they will hopefully be less denial of justice.
That's such a good point. I just want to emphasize my agreement, especially when we look at the platforms that are most successful, like the CRT, for example, it's because they're constantly evolving, constantly reassessing, thinking about how you can make it better, how you can address concerns and improve along the way. So it's such an important point.
And so we are all active. As you know, Amy, all of us is bringing a brick to that building we are building together. And we hope that the 20 years we have spent building that field, I hope now it will bring us much quicker to the point we want to get to, offer platforms which work well and that people can use without being specialists or without investing a lot of money, but just being able to get there and have their consumer disputes, their civil disputes, their neighbor disputes, and a dispute brought potentially online and settled for very low cost, but in real time and very quickly also.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I agree with you on all these aspects and look to the future about access to justice and how technology can really help us in that way. You're an inspiration. I love talking with you. I could talk with you all day. I know it's late for you in Paris time, so I should probably let you go, but I am so thankful. Thank you for taking this time with us. Inspirational words that will be very helpful to many. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Amy. Let me close with one sentence, and it is something that I speak about everywhere, and I hope that will inspire many people. I'm from the Woodstock generation, and there's a group that I love, Crosby, Still, Nash and Young. One song that I love with them says, "If you're not with the one you love, love the one you're with." And I applied this principle in my life to everything. If you don't get to the plan you had planned initially, use every opportunity to build something, build on momentums. challenges in life are so exciting. There is no straight line. Life is like a zigzag. You move from a place to another. You have to build on opportunities. So take any opportunity to bring it forward and to make your life interesting and to be passionate about things. Thank you so
That
much.
is perfect. Yeah. Well, I have to say though, thank you because as you're saying that, I just have to again emphasize that's perfect, especially in these days with COVID and with the pandemic and with plans being changed. But I think those are words that we can really think about and take to heart.
Thank you so much, Amy. I think that people need to keep faith and courage and everything will be okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Bye.